President Trump called the meeting extremely productive. He definitely tried to put a positive spin on. Let's be frank. He was trying to bring peace and end a war. I mean, there's nothing wrong about his goal, but it does appear that there really wasn't anything concrete achieved. No ceasefire, no sanctions.
Well, he did say that we got to get NATO on board, and then we also got to get Ukraine on board. And here's the problem. Trump already called up these guys and said, look, we're just waiting on them. I mean, look, United States represents Ukraine. It is what it is. NATO, we're trying to see if NATO can stop the bullshit and be like, yo, look, you can't bring Ukraine into NATO. Y'all got to stop that. Because this is one of the main reasons why this started. I mean, sure, we can talk about it all day if, oh, well, Russia would have did it anyway. All right, cool. Well, guess what? We might as well let them do it without NATO threatening to bring Ukraine in, because then you just gave them a reasonable reason to invade. If you'd have took that off the table and they still invaded, y'all had y'all had a really good argument, but now you don't.
Relief or sanctions imposed, we don't really know where we are other than Putin got himself a summit in Alaska. What do you make of what we just saw?
Yeah, I think you have it right, Jake. Look, the atmospherics of the entire summit was somewhat cringeworthy. The fact that Putin was being welcomed on American soil, the fact that Trump gave him literally a red carpet treatment, the kind he has rarely given to any, Democratic ally of the United States. You can tell.
I mean, like I said, he is a superpower. I mean, he is one of the large. He does have a lot of nukes and a lot of military tech. And he has intercontinental ballistic missiles. But you know, F Russia, right? Like, it don't really make sense on the face of it, but okay, let's say F the guys who just have I'm be real with you, one of the most powerful military in the world. I'm be real, Ukraine stood his ground against it impressively, but let's be honest, guys, that's only through our help.
That Trump thinks Putin is an equal, is this big shot on the world stage, and he's been treated by the rest of the West as a kind of pariah. I mean, he can't go to Europe because he'd be arrested. And so there was a lot of the atmospherics that were cringeworthy. But I will say, on the most important thing, at least for me, it was positive that there was no deal. I think everyone was worried that there was going to be a deal in which Trump was going to make major concessions. I don't think anyone thought Putin was going to make any concessions. The fear was that Donald Trump was going to cave in various ways, sell out Ukraine, sell out the Europeans, and he didn't do that. And so I think, I'm at least relieved. Now, when you watch it, what you saw was Putin had clearly decided his strategy was he was going to make no substantive concessions.
Now, let's be real, CNN. Even Trump said before this meeting that he plans on having a second one. He wants to first understand what Russia fully wants. The second one, I believe, he's going to start including, NATO and Ukraine into the talks, and then they're going to work something out around there. But, I mean, one thing that's definitely not going to happen is Ukraine getting into NATO. And I mean, here's the thing. Another thing that's not going to happen is Russia just giving up the land that they took. That's not going to happen. And it's also not going to happen. I mean, Zelensky staying in power.
Of any kind, but he was going to really amp up the flattery of Trump. So he says if Trump had been president, there would have been no war, which is easy for him to say now. Trump should get the Nobel Prize. He's amazing. All that, is cheap and easy rhetoric for Putin, but he laid that on thick. But at the end of the day, he made no concessions. So Trump comes back empty-handed, but, in a way, better to come back empty-handed than to have given away, a quarter of Ukraine.
Right. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people breathing easy in Ukraine because of that. I wonder if you think,
not really.
With no apparent concrete progress.
No, not really. The morale in Ukraine is pretty much gone. After Russia, honestly, I mean, CNN covered this as well, and so did Al Jazeera. After Russia kind of broke through their front lines, the morale is bad in Ukraine. Actually, people are deserting. There's missing people, and not because they're dead. They just ran away from the battlefield because they no longer have the will to fight this.
At the summit, at least none that was announced. Is there an upside for President Trump? I mean, he can say he tried for peace, and that's not nothing. But there's also the flip side of that, which is Putin might leave here bolstered, both domestically and on the international stage, no?
Well, Putin has gotten a lot in the sense that he got the recognition, he got the stage, he got the invitation to the United States. He also got the delay of all kinds of new sanctions that Trump had threatened. Remember, Trump had set deadlines, and he said if there isn't a ceasefire, Putin doesn't agree to these terms, there will be consequences, there will be severe consequences. None of that appears to be happening. And in fact, Foreign Minister Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, said he expects sanctions to be lifted as a result of this. Now, he said that a little earlier, so we don't know where that is. But yeah, it's hard to spin this in a positive direction if you believe that, it is important.
And shout out to Steps. He says, member for 11 months. Hey, shout out. Almost a year, LOL. I find it funny how liberals think this is the first time Putin's been in the United States. Shake my head. And I got a funny video or a new music for Tom McDonald. You pick set and double tap the screen. Oh yeah, guys, double tap the screen, like the video. We got over 800 of y'all in here, man. Let's get more people in by double tapping that screen. And if you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. $2 and up. Appreciate the support, guys, and also helps to open up the calling line so we can get some of you naysayers and some of the supporters in here.
To preserve Ukraine as an independent sovereign state. But it wasn't a disaster. And again, I will give Donald Trump credit for this, that presumably Putin stuck to his guns and Trump didn't concede. It's possible there is some framework that was discussed that he now needs to take to the Ukrainians and the Europeans.
I mean, here's the thing, though. It's almost acting like, all right, so what? Trump is conceding that Putin took the land, that Ukraine can't get back themselves. That's almost like you're asking us, oh, well, he conceded that because he's not willing to go in there and take the land back for Ukraine. No, the problem is, I mean, Trump has nothing to concede. Ukraine has already conceded the land. We're just asking for a peaceful de-escalation of the situation. That's all we want. Like, there is no getting land back for the Ukrainians. I mean, maybe Russia can, maybe do some land swapping, but they're not going to give up that 20% that they originally took. But they'll give up some of the territory in good faith, territory that they never planned to keep in the first place. But yeah, at the end of this, Ukraine put themselves in this bad position. And then they got Donald Trump coming in from a position of weakness because these guys hold all the cards. It's not because of Trump, it's because of Ukraine.
But Donald Trump tends to be fairly indiscreet. So if there is such a framework, if anything substantive was agreed on, we will know in the next hour. It is inconceivable to me that Trump will be able to keep that quiet. He will feel the urge to boast. So the fact that at least so far we haven't heard much leads me to your conclusion that, really at the end of the day, there's nothing to show for.
Right. I mean, he did say, just to quote him, many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant. Well, we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I assume we all here on the panel think that one that's the most significant would be the ceasefire. But President Trump also said that he's now going to call NATO leaders and Ukrainian President Zelensky. What do you see happening next? President Trump did talk about they would talk soon and probably would see each other again soon. There was some idea floating that the next summit might even be in Moscow, although he acknowledged he'd get a little heat on that one, although he didn't say no. What do you think happens next? And what message would it send if Trump were to go to Moscow for the next summit?
Well, that would be a terrible idea because the entire...
I think it'd be a good idea, honestly. I mean, shoot, bring it to Moscow. Let them talk there. Show them that there's good relations on both sides. The problem is that, for some reason, left wing and right wing, apparently, these war hawks want you to just hate Russia. They want you to think that Russia's the ultimate threat and that we just need to go after these guys in full force to protect a little old Ukraine. No, nobody wants to do that. And then for some reason, every time we try to play nice with Russia, you get villainized for it. There's been other presidents who played nice with Russia. Only in today's time, that is wrong to play nice with Russia.
The way that Trump has handled these negotiations from the start has been to make preemptive concessions to the Russians before the negotiations began. Remember, what are Putin's main demands? He wants to keep all of Ukraine that he has conquered. In fact, he wants a bit more. Trump initially basically conceded that, Peter Herzog as well. He wanted that NATO guarantee that Ukraine will not be a member of NATO. Trump has said that's going to happen. He wanted to be sure there would be no American troops on Ukrainian soil. Trump has said that. Then he gives him the summit in the US. The next thing would be to give him a summit where he can play host and peacemaker. But we've gotten nothing back from Putin. And it's been a series of unilateral.
He's winning. He has all the cards. Like, y'all, I mean, I just don't get it at a certain point. What do you guys really expect Trump to do? You want him to make the winner give up all the chips? It's like we're playing poker. You lose everything. Now you're asking the winner, can I get some money back? It's like, it don't work like that. They lost land. Now you're just saying, oh, well, Trump should be able to make Trump give it back. No, that's not possible. I'm sorry. He doesn't hold that type of weight with Russia. I mean, who does?
Concessions to Putin.
Like, y'all sound crazy at a certain point. Like, y'all just expect Trump to go beside this man's head and Putin just gonna do whatever he says. Like, y'all are not being realistic about this. Or, oh no, we should just put boots on the ground for it and risk American lives for Ukraine. Y'all not being realistic right now. Shout out to my man Maine. He's like, Russia needs give concession if U.S. president comes. I mean, yeah, Russia does need to give some type of concession if the U.S. president comes there. I mean, honestly, it needs to be a promise that we're going to have a ceasefire and everything's going to be cool if president comes to Russia. It better be for a peaceful reason or a peace negotiation or something to be signed. It can't just be for Photoshop or a photo shoot. Sorry.
And it's not clear yet what the United States, the West is getting. So I'm all for making a deal. I'm all for compromise. I'm all for ending the war. But the strategy of preemptive concessions to Vladimir Putin has never worked in the past and is unlikely to work now. What we need is pressure on Putin, military pressure through military aid to Ukraine. That's what will get his attention.
Fareed Zakaria, thank you so much. Anderson, back to you in D.C.
Jake, thanks a lot. Here with me now is Leon Panetta. He served as former defense secretary and former CIA director under President Obama, and he was President Clinton's chief of staff. Secretary Panetta, I mean, you have seen a lot of these kind of global world leader meetings, these kind of summits. Did anything come out of this? Have you seen one quite like this?
Look, Anderson, I think the fundamental test for this summit was pretty clear. That the president had to get a ceasefire. That's at the top of the list. And he himself said he needed to get a ceasefire. And that they ultimately, if they got a ceasefire, they would then establish a negotiation between Ukraine and Russia to work out the issues on territory and on security. That would have been a successful summit. That did not happen.
I mean, Trump never said that was going to happen. So it's not like the man gave us false promises. He said, yo, we're just coming to build a framework. In the second meeting, we'll work something out. Trump got the framework. He's like, all right, look, well, I'm going to go ahead and pitch this to Ukraine and NATO. And if they like it, they nod their heads to it, then we'll go ahead and come to Russia and we'll go ahead and present it out to the world. But if they're going like, oh, hell no, Trump, you tripping, then I mean, it is what it is. I guess we're just going to let the guys fight. That honestly sounds like what Trump is going with. That sounds like the plan.
There was no deal. There was no there. There was no ceasefire. So it's pretty hard for me to understand just exactly what was the purpose of this summit, because whatever I thought was the fundamental test of success was not achieved.
In fact, I want to play something the president said Wednesday when asked by a reporter about what would happen if this was not a successful summit. Let's just play that.
Oh, shoot. Funny video or music set? Oh, shoot. All right, cool. We can do the funny video stuff. I got you. All right, we'll do the funny. You ready to send it to Discord? Just let me know. And shout out Steph and shout out to the supporters, guys. Appreciate the support. If you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, go ahead and send it on in. I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. And it brings us closer into opening up the call-in line so I can hear some of the disagreements, because I see some of them, but the chat moves kind of fast. So, hey, it is what it is.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences.
Secretary Pineda, we certainly did not hear on that stage when the president was face to face with Vladimir Putin anything about any kind of consequences or any kind of failure. He's certainly not characterizing it as a failure. He did say, there's not a deal until there's a deal. He said some progress was made. Is he now in a position where he just ignores, his promise on Wednesday that there would be severe consequences? Does he just ignore that? What do you do if you're president of the United States now?
Anderson, I think the fundamental problem here is the way that President Trump thought he could make progress with Putin. He really felt that because of their friendship, that he could basically schmooze Putin, do the red carpet, have him drive together towards the summit, and that ultimately by the power of Trump's personality, that somehow he could get Putin to agree to a ceasefire. For all of those of us who dealt with Putin, that's not the way to deal with Putin. You don't schmooze Putin. You've got to be tough with Putin. Putin is a tough actor.
And I would ask him, okay, you know what? I'm going to let him explain. How do you be tough with Putin? And maybe one of you guys can tell me in the chat, how do you be tough with Putin when, one, we're not in the war here? We're not the ones fighting this. We're just giving weapons to it. So how do we be tough on Putin? What? We can add all the sanctions we want. Putin found a way around sanctions. We can add tariffs. That just might make Putin more aggressive to finish up the war. So being more aggressive on Putin can make things 10 times worse for the Ukrainians. So, we're saying being hard on Putin here because we don't got to deal with the consequence of being hard on Putin. The Ukrainians got to deal with it. So I do think it's a very wild position to have that. I'm sorry, but that's a very wild position to have.
Putin knows what he wants. Putin is not to be trusted. And you've got to be tough with him. You've got to come down. You've got to implement sanctions. You've got to provide weapons to the Ukrainians. I
know, but here's the problem, though. The Ukrainians are running out of people to fight. We don't ever want to talk about the sheer number of the Russian army. They got 2.5 million people. I'm pretty sure Ukraine does not have 2.5 million people to match these guys on. They just don't. They're running out of people. It's you got to understand, this is a battle of manpower, nutrition. They don't have enough manpower to beat Russia. I know there are people want to have the thing of, there's drones and all this good stuff. Yeah, that's why Russia's going to kick their ass on that front too. They got enough people to make all the drones in the world. That's why they unleashed a fleet of 700 on them. You guys got to understand here. This is a battle that they just can't win. They can put up a good fight, but they just can't win it.
Is being tough with Putin. That's what Putin understands. It's the power of force. And Trump somehow thinks that he doesn't have to resort to that kind of tough action and that he can do it through the power of his personality. And frankly, that's not working.
All right, then. Now, all right, let's get over to this funny clip that that Steph sent me. Appreciate it, sis. All right, guys, let's get right to it.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left, because I've been blasting and laughing.
It's so crazy, though. People can't be happy. That's what I start to notice about politics sometimes. People just can't be happy. The man Putin was smiling in the car, and the media was upset. They were like, how dare him smile while dealing with Trump? How dare him smile one time during this summit? He's supposed to be angry. He's supposed to have a shit face the entire time because he's just getting his ass handed to him in negotiations. How dare this man smile? I'm like, wow, y'all people are petty, but it is what it is.
Welcome back. We're watching the high stakes summit between President Trump and President Putin in Alaska today. The two leaders talking about the path to ending the war in Ukraine. Let's bring in former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kurt Volker, who also served as President Trump's special representative for Ukraine negotiations during Mr. Trump's first term. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here, your insights. You were, of course, part of the first Trump administration, that first summit between Presidents Trump and Putin. How do you think today's summit compares?
Well, I think that both leaders have very strong objectives here. Back in 2018, I think it was a little bit more.
All right, former U.S. ambassador to NATO. That's who this guy is, and that's why I guess he's, you know, he has the expertise to speak on this.
You know, hoping to build cooperation. There was, I think, an effort by President Trump to show that there was just this Russia hoax of attacking him who wasn't in Putin's pocket, but that he could be a deal maker. He could be a great leader who could cut deals with Russia. So that was back then. Now, and he was taking tough policies toward Russia at the time, too. Remember that. But now you have a situation where Trump really wants to see this war in Ukraine ended, and he is asking for an immediate ceasefire. Putin is.
And shout out to my man Vlad Steen. He's appreciate the support, brother. He says, honestly, a treaty with Russia would make China grip their balls tight. Plus, the members of NATO act like snakes in tall grass. That's what I'm saying. It's like they want to keep like Russia as this enemy so they can stay relevant because they know. Let's say this: Russia actually wanted to get into NATO. Putin tried to get into NATO, and he was told no. I know it's like crazy. Like the man trying to be peaceful with us. I thought we wanted to make this man a peaceful nation, and if he couldn't make Russia a peaceful nation, then okay, we need NATO. But Russia's shown that they've been trying to be peaceful a lot. We just kept them on the outside because, well, we need an enemy. We need somebody to make a villain to promote war. I mean, Russia, you can't come in here. We're warmongers. I mean, we need war. We need a villain, bro. You got to be out there, and that's kind of how Russia's been being treated for the past 25 years.
Is rejecting that. He has maximalist demands and is trying to change the subject. So Trump's going to try to keep him focused on the ceasefire and say there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow if you do. And meanwhile, Putin is going to try to dangle riches for the United States and U.S. businesses and Russian resources if Trump convinces Ukraine to end the war. So they're really talking past each other. They're not going to get much out of this meeting. The most they'll have is a conditional agreement to another meeting with President Zelensky included as well. But then those conditions will keep changing and Putin will never say that they are actually satisfied.
Well, let me follow up with you on that point because it's an important one. If what comes out of this is a conditional ceasefire, some type of conditional agreement, would that in essence be a victory for President Putin? I spoke with one Western official who said there cannot be strings attached at the end of this meeting.
Right. Yeah. No, I can't see any agreement, partly because President Trump can't execute an agreement. It depends on Ukraine to execute any agreement, meaning Ukraine has to agree with Putin. So I don't see that. I don't see a conditional ceasefire because Putin's not going to agree to any kind of ceasefire.
Don't have to.
All I can see Putin doing here is saying he'd agree to meet again and maybe even meet with Zelensky, but some conditions have to be met first.
It seems like this summit came together somewhat in a last-minute fashion, but can you take us inside President Trump's preparation process? Because as we've been discussing throughout the hour, part of what he would argue makes him a good deal maker is that he continues to keep people guessing about what he's going to do or say next. How does he prepare for a conversation of this enormity?
Right. Well, President Trump, especially in the second term, is really the one calling the shots. He is making the decisions day by day. What does he want to do? Does he want to call Zelensky? Does he want to meet with Putin? How does he want to do that Zoom with European leaders? So he's doing this day by day. And he's doing it based on his instincts and his personal relationships. So it is very, very different from a normal administration where you have policy development coordinated clearly at a sub-cabinet and then a cabinet level. Everything is gamed out. Second and third order consequences are gamed out. This is all very personalized diplomacy and personalized decision making from President Trump based on his sense of who he's dealing with and what it takes to get a deal.
You know, you said something really important, I think, and critical to what may be happening right now.
And shout out my man Vladimir coming in again. He says, we all know China will be the one starting the next global conflict. I would much rather have the two countries that have the most nukes be allies. Exactly. I'm like, do we not see China trying to edge towards Taiwan because things are getting a little bit crazy in China with their economy? For some reason, when things get crazy with these superpowers and their economy, they reach out for more land. Now, America, we ain't never had to do this because things ain't never got that crazy to where we had to, I don't know, maybe take a little bit of, Mexico or Canada. But things have gotten crazy in China to where they're like, you know, we might have to take Taiwan for economic benefits of controlling the chip manufacturing. And that should be able to help us because, you know, of their housing bubble popping in 2022 and all that wild stuff. I mean, they never truly covered from COVID. And of course, you know, they kind of got an oligarchy structure with the CCP of all the wealth being held to them. That doesn't help nobody in China. So yeah, I can see that. Like, I can see why even you, Vlad, kind of see this now that we're like, bro, we need to really focus on China because you see them kind of edging towards Taiwan, Russia. I mean, look, guys, I'd rather be friends with Russia than China. And here's the thing, we have more in relation with Russia, and this is not me being a pro-Russian guy. I honestly think Putin is a war criminal. What he's doing right now in Ukraine, he's attacking civilians. I don't agree with none of that. But to keep my emotions out of it, I mean, he is a superpower. I knew how this war was going to turn out this way, even though I didn't like it. It's just dealing with reality, guys. And if you don't want to deal with reality, you want to sit here and call these guys, they're not a superpower, they're just a country to a big ass gas station, then I mean, you're just going to look like an idiot in the end. And then it kind of shows how you guys don't really care about Ukrainian lives because it's fuck Russia more than it's save Ukraine or save Ukrainian lives. Like, that's the problem with a lot of you guys is fuck Russia more than saving Ukrainian lives.
In this conversation between President Trump and President Putin, which is that President Putin will try to change the subject. He is going to try to talk about his agenda items, potentially doing business with the U.S., getting the U.S. to roll back some of the sanctions, maybe even talking about a new nuclear arms agreement. How much might that cloud the conversation? And when you have Secretary Rubio sitting there and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, could they essentially help to rein the conversation back in?
Well, I'm not sure they're going to be speaking up very much. I think it's going to be Trump and Putin who do the talking. And I think that Trump will be willing to listen. He'll be interested in that. And it's just a matter of Trump being consistent and saying, okay, that's all very interesting. We'd love to do that, but you got to end the war first. I hope that Trump can just be consistent like that.
What?